Hey Star Trek fans, welcome to another episode of Dan's Disco Deep Dives, in which I take a look at the Easter eggs, hidden bits, canon connections, and theories for new episodes of Star Trek Discovery. This week, the penultimate episode of Season 2, Such Sweet Sorrow. Such Sweet Sorrow was written by Michelle Paradise, Jenny Lumet, and Alex Kurtzman. Paradise and Kurtzman are the co-showrunners for Discovery's third season, while Jenny Lumet previously co-wrote the Short Treks episode Runaway. The director of Such Sweet Sorrow is Olatunde Osunsanmi, sitting in the director's chair for the fourth time for the Discovery series, plus one episode of Short Treks. Early in the episode, the crew sets the auto-destruct for the USS Discovery. Self-destruct sequences have been seen many times in Trek before, with the first such instance being in the original series episode, Let That Be Your Last Battlefield. Much like when we see the auto-destruct being activated on other occasions, input from both the captain and first officer is required to set it, with Captain Pike and Commander Saru issuing the ultimately unsuccessful order to destroy Discovery. In a callback to a previous episode, and perhaps with a more than subtle wink at the audience, Number 1 reports to Captain Pike that the holographic communications system has been taken out of the Enterprise, and that there will be no more holographic communications on the ship again. Ever. Here we begin a pretty extensive catalog of the flourishes the production crew added to the sets of the USS Enterprise to pay homage to the classic set design of the original Star Trek series. Upon arriving on the Enterprise from the Discovery, Pike and Saru pass a familiar-looking red grill in the corridor. The turbolifts of the Enterprise feature a handle that must be gripped to give the lift its destination, just like in TOS. The door sounds, of course, featured in earlier episodes as well, are reminiscent of the classic Star Trek door sound. Upon arriving on the bridge itself, we see a number of callbacks to the classic design. Multicolored displays like those seen in the original series, a combined helm and navigation station that looks a lot like the station seen in TOS. Of course, the reddish-orange highlights on the bridge harken back to the bright colors of the bridge in TOS.
Orange? Really? Yeah.
The dedication plaque near the turbolift lists the Enterprise as Starship Class. A number of the buttons and embellishments on the consoles surrounding the bridge are very similar to the style of TOS. In fact, James Cawley of the Star Trek fan films New Voyages, Phase 2, and what has now become the original series set tour, loaned a number of buttons to the Discovery production team for use on their Enterprise bridge set. There are a number of sound effects, almost too numerous to mention, that are lifted from the original series. Here are just a few.
Photon torpedoes ready.
The communications officer, Lieutenant Nicola, sports an earpiece that looks similar to Uhura's iconic earpiece. Either that, or it's a Bluetooth headset. We also see the Enterprise's briefing room, which features a meeting table very similar to the one seen in the cage, as well as an iconic three-sided viewer that would become ubiquitous in the original series. When the auto-destruct fails to destroy Discovery, Pike decides to complete the task using the Enterprise's photon torpedoes. Unlike Discovery's torpedoes, which are blue, the Enterprise's are red, matching what we have seen of the Enterprise's torpedoes in the original series. At one point, we see a display showing the weapons ranges for the Discovery and the Enterprise, revealing that the Enterprise's weapons have a much greater range than Discovery's. This makes sense, given Enterprise's role as a frontline heavy cruiser, while Discovery is technically a science vessel. This episode sees a reunion between Zahian Queen Mihani Ika Halika Po and Ensign Tilly, who originally met in the Short Treks episode Runaway. In that episode, Tilly gained Poe's trust by giving her a bowl of Spumoni ice cream. In this episode, Tilly once again offers the confection to Poe, who admits that, even with her vast amount of technical and scientific know-how, she has never quite been able to recreate it. Speaking of Poe, at one point she says that the energy required to power the time crystal would have to be Planck level. She is referring here to Max Planck, 20th century Earth physicist, who is considered to be the father of quantum theory. When Sarek and Amanda arrive to say goodbye to Michael, she asks Sarek to look after Spock. Sarek responds that he will always be here for his son, while still keeping his distance. This is very much in accordance with canon, as the silence between Spock and Sarek will endure for another 11 years after this episode, until the TOS episode, Journey to Babel. Such sweet sorrow upholds the Trek tradition of forgetting that there is no up or down in space, as when the Section 31 fleet catches up with Discovery and Enterprise, they surround the two ships in a single plane, ignoring the three-dimensionality of space. Daniel Munasar says, maybe in an attempt to control Control/Arium, they have to trap her on Discovery with a continual good memory loop, which is the experience with Craft. A memory of her sacrificing her own good for the good of another, something selfless and potentially fatal to her own well-being. I really like this theory. This is one of those rare theories that you get that I've not seen anyone else come up with, that the experiences that we see in the Short Treks episode Calypso might actually be a simulation and not a true representation of fact or of real events, and instead the AI that they've managed to create or capture on Discovery is kind of locked in this experience. I'm not convinced that this is the case, but it is definitely a really unique theory and I really like it. Thank you so much for posting that. Pharaoh Hazard says, I wonder if Tyler is just going to ask L'Rell for backup, which would be so cool to see the Klingons coming to the aid of Starfleet after the war in Season 1. I agree completely. This is a very popular theory that I've seen around as to what Tyler is up to. You might recall in the episode he says to Captain Pike that he has to leave immediately to take care of something. I think I'm on board with this, that he's going to bring the Klingons into the fight against Control/Leland. Definitely would be really cool to see a fleet of D7s come to the aid of Discovery and Enterprise here. I would love that visual. Also, for anyone out there looking for another channel that deals with Discovery in a very positive manner and with some really great reviews and other really cool geeky stuff, check out Pharaoh Hazard's channel. I'll have a link in the description below or in the card in this video. Her name is Lily. She does really awesome videos. You should definitely check them out. Maddie Time says, I think the game change and also reason for the entire new bridge set, which I hypothesize was built after tearing down the Discovery Bridge, is that the Disco will jump to the future and next season will feature a Constitution class Discovery A. This is another theory that I've seen a lot of people talking about, and I think it's a really interesting idea. I could totally see next season the big change up being that there's a new Discovery. The fact that it's the Discovery A and Constitution class would totally justify them building this new bridge set for the Enterprise. As cool as a Pike-based Enterprise series would be, this is another totally legitimate reason to have that set in their back pocket. So good thinking for this theory. And yeah, a lot of people, like I said, have thought along these lines, and that would be pretty interesting. Now for my theory. Whether or not this particular plan to jump Discovery ahead into the future succeeds or not, I think that the current crew aboard Discovery at the end of this episode will be trapped apart from the rest of the Federation/timeline for Season 3. Therefore, I think that the people we see in this scene is the cast for Season 3, with the exceptions of Tyler, who we know goes off to rally the Klingons to fight Section 31, that's my guess, and Spock, who will become separated from the Discovery at some point in the coming battle and remain behind while Disco goes through the wormhole. In the trailer for the upcoming finale, we see a number of shots of Spock aboard a shuttlecraft, so I think it will be pretty easy to have him remain behind. After all, he still has more canon adventures to get up to. According to people behind the scenes, next season will be a complete game changer. So I think that this will mean the season will take place with a crew cut off from everything they knew, maybe far in the future, helping to rebuild a fractured and crumbling Federation, a la Gene Roddenberry's Andromeda. This will all, of course, tie into the Short Treks episode Calypso, but how at this point, I'm not entirely sure. But that's just my theory. Let me know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thank you so much to the Patreon supporters for your support of the channel. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everyone else for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe for more Star Trek videos, and join me this coming week for the season finale of Star Trek Discovery's second season. I can't wait to watch it, and yet I don't want it to be over, and I know a lot of you out there are feeling much the same way, so we can both be overjoyed and sad together. I'll see you all in the next video, and until then, sometimes we know the role we're meant to play, sometimes we don't. I'm not sure which is better, to be honest.